Welcome back. This is Adventures with Dr. Joe. Today I'm very excited. We're going to install some Nerf bars or rock slider bars onto our Polaris Ranger XP1000. I purchased these from Amazon and I got a pair of used ones. They were $100 less than the normal price, and I thought I'd give it a try. The packaging it came with is terrible, but guess what? These are a heavy-duty product. They were beat up a little bit, but they're going to work just fine. Let's take a look at them. They're sitting right down here. These will fit into pre-marked areas for cutouts here, here, and back here. And it came with the hardware to install those. Let's look at that. This is the hardware. These are 8mm by 1 1/4 bolts, flat washers. There are 6 bolts, 2 very long ones that are regular bolts, and then these are flange bolts, 4 of these, 6 stainless steel screws, 6 rubber washers, and 4 nylon lock nuts. It requires a 1.5-inch hole saw, which we have here. This is Milwaukee, a 13mm ratchet, and a 13mm wrench. So one thing I wanted to be sure was that the threads in this area where one of the bolts fits into are good. They're 8mm 1.25 threads, and this one was good, a little bit stiff but not bad. So I think it's a good idea to chase those threads to be sure that our bolts will go into those really nicely. So I used a 1.5-inch drill here, did the first hole here, which does line up with the opening inside here, which is good. Now we'll drill the other 2. So here we go with this one. And that's all it takes. This is the 3rd hole below the gas cap. Makes pretty quick work of it. So if our holes are correct, which I pray they are, this might fit. Wow, there it goes. It fits well. Now just to bolt it into place. It has a great look, a very strong look, very protective. So to mount these Nerf bars on here, or these rock sliders, you can see I had to take the protective panel off the bottom. That was a pain. I had to release all these screws from the sides, everything from underneath it, now drop down, having to put it together. But it gives me access now to all these 3 holes, so I can hopefully get these Nerf bars mounted. I bumped the hole cutter up to 1 5/8, a little bit bigger, because there's just not the perfect alignment. Then I took the center drill out of here, and we're just going to use these. We're going to open these holes up just a little bit. Alright, that'll give me a slightly larger opening to allow these bars to move just a little bit to get the bolt holes lined up. I'm going to do it on all 6 of the openings. Alright, this was a doozy. This was not easy. I had to take that entire panel off the bottom. Open these 3 holes up slightly larger, as I showed you before. That helped a lot. And then for this center bolt, the bolt that came with it wasn't long enough. So let me show you what I did. This is the bolt that came with it, and I didn't have an 8mm by 1 1/4 that was longer than this. So I used a 7/16, and you can see it's longer, but then when it's trying to go through the hole, it doesn't line up perfectly. So I ground the end so it would fit in there, and I'll show you that technique. So when you grind something with threads like a bolt, it's good to put a nut on it, because once you ground this, you can take the nut off and it will restore the threads. Let's grind this a little bit. Remember, the grinder is your friend. Here we go. Can you see I'm using the nut to stabilize it and then driving it in and driving it back out? Just putting a nice taper on it. Let's take a look at that. It'll be enough to make it through when it doesn't quite line up. And then we'll take this nut off, which will restore, there it goes, restore the threads. So I've got this really nice Lennox 1 5/8 inch bit, and I took the center drill bit out, and I'm finding these cutouts. There we go. Okay, now we're going to try to install Nerf bar rock slider. Sorry. That's how it's going to go once we get those bolts in. So I put a couple of these torque screws back in to hold the body close. I've got this one bolt in. I'm going to put the rubber bumper on, I hope. We got that on. And there's very little bolt thread that sticks out of here. Very little. So I'm going to try to get this part started. So I got it attached. It was not easy. I took the 80mm bolt that normally goes in the front and use it in the back. I needed something longer. That worked well. And for both this one and this one, I used the long 5/16 inch bolt. Remember, this one I ground the tip so it could fit into the hole and find its way. This one I used a grade 8 bolt so I could really crank it in tight. These are solid, but unfortunately the hardware is not the greatest that it comes with it. So I've ordered some more hardware to replace the stuff I use for my stockpile. But it is on. It is solid. It is ready to go. Now I just got to get this scuff bar or scuff pad back, and I'm not looking forward to that. Look at this. This is all the hardware that came off by taking that scuff pad off, and I've got to put it all back on. It's T40s and 10mm screws, basically. Well, guys, that's the installation of these Nerf bars, or these rock sliders. It was tough. I'd get a hand. I'd get somebody to help you, and I don't think the hardware is quite long enough. I needed to get some little bit longer hardware. However, really nice. You do need a hole cutter, and 1 5/8 I recommend. I had to take the panel off the bottom, which was a pain. It was a real pain to get it back on. I hate being on a creeper, but sometimes we have to do these things. Anyway, I think they fit great. They look great. There's a step here. You know, you want to get out or in or out, that's going to help you a lot. They're very strong, very heavy duty. We got a very nice powder coat finish. I think they'll last for a long time, and they'll save wear and tear on the body for sure. But hey, thank you for watching. Consider subscribing. Adventures with Dr. Joe. Comments are very welcome. And again, thank you very much.